There's something happening there where we are in engineered reality. And if you look at that engineered reality matrix, you can just clearly see that so many of these things are engineered. And I'm not saying there's actors being hired and things like that, but I'm saying the situations are engineered. You see a big catastrophe happen the moment some big embarrassing thing is about to get released. And it's every time. So there's always something going on. And I'm not sitting here as some harbinger of truth who's saying like, oh, I've got everything figured out and I know all these guys pulling the strings. I've never focused too much on that because knowing about it is not going to really free you. You're not going to be like, it make you feel cool. You get a placebo of some kind of control of your life, but you have none. I want to focus on what are the methods that are being used. How can I make people aware of the methods, and how do I train people in these methods so we can start using them in a war against that in our own mind of just fighting against being in that level of control.
We'll get into some of the methods a bit later in the interview that can help people protect themselves from a psyop and use some of Chase's methods in their own life. But I do want to ask, why do you think the Israel-Gaza psyop failed in the US? Because it seems like America used to have a very positive opinion of Israel and Israel affairs, and that has largely shifted to the point where it's become mainstream to say a thing like Free Palestine. So from a psychological operative perspective, why do you think they might not have won their case?
There's a few reasons. There was a CIA program. I think it started in 1957. It was called Project Mockingbird. Are you familiar with this?
Part of this, yeah.
They installed so if you talk to your parents, every news anchor that they remember from their childhood, there's like a 90% chance that was a actual CIA operative. And this is documented, released documents. Guys like Walter Cronkite, like one of the most famous news anchors of all time, working for the CIA to engineer reality. And they're in the business of engineering reality. And you just have to understand that so much of our reality is engineered. It doesn't mean you walk around like a schizophrenic thinking that everything's out to get you, everybody's targeting you. It just means like you see something happen on the news, you see something happen in your life, and you just have one word. Just memorize this one word when you anybody listening, when you hear that stuff or see that stuff. Maybe. They say, oh, this happened today because of this one thing. Maybe. Just maybe. You don't have to say there's some global cabal and like I need to drill down to the end and go break into the Bohemian Grove and like figure out all the shit that's going on. You don't need to do all that. Just maybe. That word can protect you from so much of the bullshit that's going on with engineered reality. I don't even know what your question was.
I will say, just as an aside, that spending time with Chase and his son, the one thing I noticed was he wouldn't let his son make any direct, like full identity statements or just like absolute statements. He'd be like, maybe that's the case. Don't say that. Say it could have been this. And I found that to be very interesting. I think it's very helpful in people's life to usually say maybe as well. But the original question was, why do you think the Israel-Gaza psyop failed?
Yeah. So back to Mockingbird then. So there was, as time went on through the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was a very strong foothold in what the American public was exposed to, the opinions and everything else. So it wasn't like, there's so many people that think, oh, when Twitter and Facebook came out, we could engineer people's opinions. No, this shit's been going on in the newspapers for a very long time, since like the 1920s. And it started with another guy who was Sigmund Freud's nephew, which is another story if you want to get into it. But it's been going on for a long time.
What was that guy's name? Just so people have context.
Edward Bernays.
Was the father of propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The father of American propaganda, anyway. There were some Soviet programs that were really good too. So as that they had a strong foothold, and essentially, just to turn this into like a couple of sentences, that foothold loosened as people were able to get on social media, and then Twitter X was acquired by Elon, and then he just had this policy of like open truth, and you're not going to get kicked off of here for offending people, which like offending people isn't against the law. Like we should be able to offend each other to have powerful discussions and change politics, and even forwarding scientific advancement should risk offending somebody who wrote a paper or something. So that came out, and then it became less. So there's always been some outliers. There's some guy who runs a podcast. There's like the Alex Joneses of the world who just don't give a shit, and they will just unload, and they don't care about the social consequences. But a lot of people who have these opinions were scared of like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to have social consequences. I'm not going to talk about anything. But the apparent consequences of speaking up are getting less and less and less than they used to be. So the reduction in social consequences is making the conversation seem to be like people are willing to speak their mind a little bit more. But when people are saying like free Palestine and all of this kind of stuff, a lot of that is about identity. It's not about like you learned about Palestine and then you made an agreement. If you look at this, it's just going to upset a few people, but I just want you to look at this objectively, that what I do today and the things that I post online are not me making a decision today. It's everything I've made a decision about for the last 2 years publicly. So what have you done publicly for the last few years? Maybe I committed to being a member of a left or a right leaning party. And that means that I also committed to this and then this and then this. So that shapes all of our behavior. And I think some people may not be willing to admit it, and that's okay. Some people may not be ready. You got to be willing to admit that like we get shaped by our past, and we get shaped by the things that we're publicly made to agree with. And if I can get you to make an agreement, that's one thing. If I can get you to make that agreement in front of 10 people, I alter your behavior almost permanently because of how you view yourself and not wanting to go away and be seen as a person who's not who they say they are in front of the tribe. So I think a lot of that comes down to the fear of tribal outcast. So when I said 2 sentences, I meant 29. So
it's fair as well that just from the way you're describing this, that free Palestine appeared to be lingo that was fairly restricted or at least unfamiliar to people. And then in of itself, people made it a movement to be like the underdog. These are the victims. And I'm not saying that isn't the case, but I'm saying that was at least what most people will tell you, which makes it the more likely side to join.
And if I view them as the underdog, then everything I see on social media is going to agree with me, and they're going to show me what I need. So if I'm looking at something online and I agree with the Free Palestine thing, I'm only going to see anti-Israel content, because if I start seeing stuff I disagree with, I'm going to close the app. I'm going to exit out of the app. So Dr. Phil has a great way to think about this. And Dr. Phil says, no matter how flat you make a pancake, it still has 2 sides. And I think it's important for us to look at both sides of every story. So if I'm on the I support Israel forever side, I want to look at some of the opposing narratives. I want to look at some of the other things. If I'm on the Free Palestine side, I'm going to look at some of the other things from the other side and what they think. And I want everybody to know, if you're listening, our brains have not physically changed in 200,000 years. No new wrinkles or anything. There's nothing really different about our brain. And we tend to think, we want to tell ourselves that our brain is a truth-seeking mechanism. It's wired to seek the truth. It is the opposite of that. Our brain's job is to keep us alive and search for things that we already think are true. So your brain is basically a defense attorney, and their job is to prove you right all the time. And we once we understand that, I'm going to start looking at other things. So I'm either A, well-informed, or B, I'm not going to consume one-sided narrative-based media.
Do you think porn is part of a psyop?
No.
Do you think AI is a government psyop?
No.
Do you think Jeffrey Epstein is a government psyop?
I think government op without the psi.
So you don't think it's possible that Jeff Epstein was just a financier?
No. And this is, I know a lot of people who are way more educated than I am on the whole situation. I don't read about it. I don't follow a lot of those stories. Everyone that I know that works in intel positions thinks that it was a operation of some kind.
Why do you think everyone has become more anxious?
That's a very good question. And this is just my opinion. I think we have anxiety because we have unlimited amount of distraction and thought anesthetic. So like you go to the bathroom, you take your phone. You go in the shower, you put on a YouTube video so you can listen to it. You sit in the car. We don't have boredom anymore. And boredom used to be one of the ways that we would mentally process a lot of stuff. And the second piece of this is, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a model, and all models are wrong, some models are useful. I think this model is useful. The third level, you have survival, and then safety, and then belonging, and this kind of social part of the triangle. And on the belonging part of the triangle, our brains were wired, like we said, our brains haven't changed in a long time. Our brains are wired to handle a tribe of like 150, 175 people. And you have a life in social media that has tens of millions of people in there. We cannot handle it. Our brains cannot possibly handle it. But it gives us a placebo that we're actually connecting to other people. And this is why we have a global pandemic right now of loneliness. Even though we're more connected, but we're more lonely than ever before. Because what we are usually on social media is performative. I'm performing something. So no matter how much someone likes me, I know for a fact they're not liking me for me. So we get anxiety. Social anxiety is through the roof. General anxiety is through the roof. Dr. Daniel Amen has some great commentary on this stuff when he was on, I think he was on Rogan like a week ago talking about this. And when we don't experience real connection with people and we're performative all the time, we are desperate for people to tell us things, to connect with us. But even if they do connect with us, we know it's not the real me. So we don't have any real social fulfillment. There's a French philosopher named Sartre, and he wrote about this thing, and it's now commonly referred to as Sartre's hell. You get these three people, and they're essentially in hell, but hell is other people, and it's not in a way that you might think. In Sartre's hell, you get locked in a room, sort of locked in a room with these three people, and everyone needs so badly for other people to acknowledge something about them. I need everybody to see that I'm a good person. I need everybody to see that I'm beautiful. I need everybody to see that I have a good heart, or whatever it is. And in Sartre's hell, they're desperate. There's three people, and he goes up to one of the other people, and one of the guys says, I need you to tell me that I'm a good person. I need you to tell me this about myself. And the other person says, yes, that is you. And he doesn't believe him. So he refuses to believe him, but he's still desperate for them to keep saying it and keep saying it. And the funny thing is, the door opens like once a day so they can walk right out of the room and no one leaves because they're desperate to confirm these things. They're desperate to confirm who they are through the eyes of other people. And that's where we are right now. All of us getting into this desperation for, if I get enough likes on this video, if I don't have a pimple on my chin, then people are going to think I'm more credible. If I don't say these words right, then people are going to think I'm less credible. So I want to confirm what I believe about myself through the behavior of other people. And that is Sartre's hell. And I think that we are living in a digital version of Sartre's hell right now.
I do want to touch back a bit because I realize I glided past something you said. You said that a lot of the main anchors at the big media companies were CIA operatives. Do you think that's happening today?
Yes.
Did you think I was a CIA operative?
No.
What are the signs?
You mean like what should we look for online?
Sure.
I think when somebody is asked a difficult question about their government, their agency that they might be working for, they might answer it in a negative way, but then they'll say, yes, but they do all this good thing and that good thing and that good thing. So that I think that allegiance mandates some kind of PR maintenance. So asking those really difficult questions are the way that I see people respond to those. And it doesn't make me say, oh yeah, 100% that guy is an agent or whatever. But it does make me say, interesting. That's interesting. That like that person got asked about something that happened in the 1950s with the CIA. And they said, like, yes, they did that back then. However, nowadays, their new focus is this and this and this. And they'll throw a little commercial on top of the admission of the negative thing that happened.
Yeah, I think Gen Z, maybe this is biased because this is at least my belief, but I think people would be surprised that the CIA is sophisticated enough to infiltrate the influencers that Gen Z and Gen Alpha watch. Because they're like, oh, there's no way these older guys are able to get in here and do this kind of thing with us. You know, like we're watching TikTok, we're watching, I don't know, Sora AI videos, Instagram Reels. But if you were theoretically going to design a psychological operation, what would be the main areas you think you would have covered on social media?
You mean like if I wanted to recruit someone like you?
No, I suppose, like, do you think they're everywhere? Do you think it's just media? Do you think it's podcasts maybe? Do you think it's TikTokers? Like, how many, is it everywhere?
I think it's in every area where media is consumed, yeah.
It's fascinating.
And I'm not saying, let's be clear. So when I'm saying like somebody's an operative or whatever word you want to use, they're not like walking around on their off time, pulling out their secret CIA ID card and badging into the main building. That's not what happens. Even if you go back to Project Mockingbird, they're just getting some talking points in a letter every once in a while. They're just saying, oh, you know what? Don't have this guy on your show, or don't allow this to be spoken about on your show. Or if they talk about this, you're going to cut it out. There's simple things like that. Some very basic instructions. And the way that somebody like a Gen Z person might get recruited is, let's just use a hypothetical person instead of a real person.
So you're talking about how someone like me could get recruited into this.
Yeah.
So it's not like designed from birth.
Oh, no, not at all. They'll typically capitalize on the people who already have talent and skill. It's not like they're going to they don't have to worry about that because people are going to rise to the top and they don't have to worry about training them in charisma, media, on-camera presence. They just find the people that are already doing well. So it saves them a lot of time and a lot of money. So let's say one day, let's just use you as an example. Somebody comes up and says, hey man, I love your podcast, yada, yada. They're in a restaurant, a bar, whatever. And they say, I have a serious question for you though. Are you a patriot? Would you consider yourself a patriot? Now I've got you locked into identity, right? Exactly what we talked about at the beginning of our show here. So you consider yourself a patriot. Then we'll go on a little bit. I'll get you to make a few more comments and stuff like that. And I'll get you to make a few more agreements that say that, yeah, I support the country and all that kind of stuff. And then I say, well, I have an offer for you. But before I show you anything, I just want you to say yes or no. Would you be willing to entertain the offer and look at what I have? And it might be uncomfortable. Would you be willing to look at it?
Sure.
Yep. Stage 1 is I show you all of your browsing history, captures from your webcams on all of your phones and computers of you doing the most compromising shit you could ever possibly imagine. Every bad thing you've ever done, recorded in some way. And I'd say, I like your podcast. I think you're doing a great job, and I want to protect you. And I want to keep all this from the public eye. But we also want to give you $20,000 a month. So I'm going to protect you, and B, I'm going to give you $20K a month from all this. So you have the carrot and you have the stick at the exact same briefing, and you agreed to receive the briefing from me even after I told you it was going to be stressful. So now you feel like you chose all of this. So you walk away not feeling like I shoved this in your face. I told you it was going to be stressful, and you agreed to it, and you agreed that you're a patriot, and all the other agreements. And now if you say yes, the reason that you're doing this on your podcast is for your country, because you're not going to call yourself compromised. We have this thing called cognitive dissonance that keeps our brain from thinking I'm a bad person. We have a hardwired thing in our brain that says, I did this bad thing for this good reason. It's in everybody's brain. So now when you go back on the podcast, you're going to go back to that sense of patriotism, because that's how that person anchored that conversation at the very beginning and probably at the very end. So now, even though you're being asked to silence people, not have certain people on the show, leave something out of your podcast, you're telling yourself, and whoever's your handler is telling you, this is for the greater good. This is for the good of the country, because we have these brand new initiatives that are coming out. The Saudis are doing X and Y and Z. Chinese are preparing operations to do X and Y and Z. And if this thing got out, it could have caused a massive panic and a massive crisis. So you did the right thing, and you kept Americans safe by doing that. And you'll tell yourself that, and you'll feel good about it. So when a person is like in this situation, they will feel good about what they're doing. Even if it feels a little off in the back of their mind, they'll still feel like at the end of the day, I'm doing the right thing.
What happens if I say no?
At the end of the day, if you said no, then, and this is all hypothetical, I'm making all of this up completely. At the end of the day, if you said no, the conversation would turn to, well, I think you're doing a great job. I appreciate you having this discussion with me. And I have to say that there is no way that I can prevent this stuff from reaching the public eye unless you decide to work with us. And all I'm asking you to do is just work with us once a week for 5 minutes. But it's up to you. And that'll be a mind virus in your brain for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it'll never go away. And all I've got to do is leave you a business card with a phone number on it. And you'll call. Eventually you'll call.
That's fascinating. Chase, you and these crazy hypotheticals, man.
I just make them up.
As a government mind control expert, we'll say, what psyop do you think is being run on you, or what psyop have you been susceptible to?
I think about 3 years ago, and these were all political. This is like I started, I followed one conservative person, and then I got all these other things. And damn, I was never going to admit this on anywhere. But I got down to a point where I was on X under an hour a day, because I have these app time limits. Now they're like 8 minutes. And I don't even have social media on my entire phone anymore. But now I got to this point where I was just seeing so much of this doom and gloom. The world's going to end. The country's going to end. You need to start preparing for World War III, all this crazy shit, that I invested in a survival property. I bought things way too much money that I shouldn't have spent. And I just completely bought into this. And at the end of the day, when they said, all this shit's going to happen, all this stuff's going to go down, I was sitting there with all of this stuff, sitting there looking around at all this stuff. And I was like, I am such a fool. And I felt bad for a minute, but it's just I have a human brain. I'm not superhuman. I don't have a super immunity to any of this stuff. So it's definitely something that anybody can fall for. And taking a break, like what I call a media diet, is maybe, with what's going on today with depression and loneliness and anxiety and all this stuff, it might be one of the healthiest things that you can possibly do. It definitely changed my life.
So just to recap and put it succinctly, how do you protect yourself from being brainwashed? And how do you kind of not be affected by any type of psyop ever?
That's impossible. But there is, the fastest way to do this is, and I built this method for myself. And number one is, what is grabbing your focus? So I need to train my brain to look for manufactured novelty, some unexpected thing, something that we never saw coming. It's a big black swan event that no one saw. Train your brain to look for that. So that's the first way to hijack the mammalian brain is focus. Second is authority. So you train your brain the moment that an authority figure comes up, even if it's like some Hollywood celebrity commenting on politics. It's maybe a politician coming out and saying, these people are bad. Train your brain to look for authority figures, and especially when their messages line up. So part 3 of this is tribe. We start understanding and being able to spot the ways that artificial tribe is being manufactured. So if I own Facebook, let's say, or it doesn't matter, I'm not singling out Facebook. If I own a social media company, I can fake it to you that there are tens of thousands of people who agree with XYZ ideas. And the moment that I get you to believe that lots of people are adopting this new behavior, this new idea, then I get you to go along with that. And this is proven in research, study upon study. Some of these studies that are just fascinating to look at. These are done in the 60s. A lot of these done in the 60s. So we have focus, authority, tribe, and then emotion. So when am I getting emotionally played? Not just when is something making me feel emotional. A good commercial makes you feel emotional. Like there was some of these Super Bowl commercials that people would cry during these commercials because they were so well done. That's okay. When am I being emotionally hijacked? And here's the way to tell when you're being hijacked. And in hypnosis, this is a hypnosis technique that I think was invented by this guy named Dr. Milton Erickson, who's like the grandfather of hypnotherapy. He's the reason that hypnosis and genuine hypnotherapy got approved by the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association. And this technique is called fractionation. And in a fractionation, I have your emotions here, and I show you things to bring it up here, piss you off, and then bring you down again to something that's joyous and happy and reverent and kind and awesome. Then I bring you back up again. And then when I pull you back down, you'll be twice as vulnerable. Then I bring you back up again, pull you down. You're twice as vulnerable. So just to give you the corollary and like how this came from hypnosis, if I'm hypnotizing you and I only allow you to wake up a little bit, just to a point where your eyes open a little bit, and then I put you back down, you'll go deeper. Then I wake you up a little bit, just where your eyes open, push you back down, you go deeper every time. So this makes us hyper suggestible. So being very keen and very aware of when I'm going up and then back down and then up and then back down. And if you're really good at this, you'll be able to spot where the ads, you'll know before you see an ad.
Quick one. Something Chase taught me on our last interview was that being well-researched gives you a significant advantage when entering a conversation with someone. So now when I have a guest on my podcast, I try to learn the little details, hidden gems, things that they would never think I would know about them, so our content is as good as possible. This is a big reason we had to start using Poppy for all of our content, because with their platform, you can take documents, voice memos, tweets, podcasts, TikToks, and connect them all to a chatbot that instantly transcribes and lets you interact with several pieces of content at once. As someone with over 15 billion views on social media, good research is your competitive edge when it comes to going viral. So if you want the most powerful AI tool to improve your content, just go to jackneal.com/poppy. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if it doesn't give you value, It's completely free. You can also scan the QR code on screen or hit the first link in the description. But anyway, guys, back to the podcast.
So you'll see riots, then you'll see fighting, then you'll see a body cam footage of somebody getting in a fight with a cop or arguing with a police officer to kind of like, kind of get your heart racing a little bit. And then you'll see maybe one more thing that pisses you off. Then you'll see some other party person, left or right, doesn't matter. You'll see some political thing that pisses you off and makes you hate. Tribalism. So it's injecting the tribe. So that's focus, then authority, and then tribe. And then we have emotion. And that emotion starts right as that big thing is pissing you off. Then you'll scroll one more time and it'll be one of those videos of like, oh yeah, we just found this baby coyote on our back porch and he was injured. So we splinted his leg and we bottle fed him. And then it shows this little coyote, like a time lapse of him growing up, sleeping in the bed, playing with their baby, playing with the dogs, all this stuff. And it's like, wow, like you get this big emotional rush. That's fractionation. And then right after that little baby coyote video, ad. You'll get an ad. And no human came up with this. I definitely didn't teach them this. The algorithm started understanding what makes people click. So paying attention to that is step one. Step two is, where am I seeing these narratives repeated throughout multiple media sources? I'm seeing lots of the same exact thing from multiple places. And number three, and this might be the most important of all, is where am I seeing people who disagree get ostracized? Am I seeing people get exiled from some community because they disagreed with something? And those are the signs that you're in a cult as well. It's the same shit that cults do to recruit members and keep members. Like, what does a cult go through? I'm going to get you to adopt a whole lot of new beliefs and new identities. I'm going to introduce you